Hey guys, today I'm going to be sharing my top tips on how to get your leg up à la seconde, so how to get your leg higher to the side. You'll have to forgive me for being a bit sweaty. I've just done a bit of a bar because it's always really important whenever you're doing anything with your legs that are, you know, above kind of like 45 degrees, that you are really well warmed up. And obviously it's for that reason that when you go to a ballet class, things like adagio and grand battement are towards the end of the bar because you don't want to be getting to the bar and just whacking your legs up straight away. So if you're trying out these tips, make sure please that you are really well warmed up. The way that I see it is that there are 3 different parts on how to get your legs higher on développés, on grand battements and all those kind of things, basically getting your leg higher in second position to the side. So those 3 things are: firstly, flexibility. If you do not have the flexibility, you're never going to be able to get your leg up there because it's just going to be physically impossible for the movement range that you have. So even if you have really strong legs, if you don't have the flexibility and the range of movement to get it up there, it's going to be just absolutely impossible. So the first thing is flexibility. The second thing is, of course, strength, and that's especially in développés because, okay, grand battement you might be able to kind of throw your leg up, but in développés there's no way that you're going to be able to get your leg up there and hold it there and do it in a controlled way unless you also have a lot of strength. And obviously ideally you'll also be using the correct strength in grand battement and things like that as well. And the third thing, of course, is technique. You can be super flexible, you can be strong, but if you are not using that flexibility and that strength in the right way, then when it comes to things like doing pirouettes à la seconde and just being able to control your movements and make it look really beautiful, it all comes down to doing it with the right technique. If you do it with the right technique from the beginning, you're going to make your life so much easier further down the line. It's never a good idea to kind of just try and get your leg as high as you can without, for example, being turned out and by lifting your hip and all those kinds of things, because in the end you're going to be pulling yourself off your center, you're not going to have as much control, and it's just going to be incorrect. So in the end it's not going to serve you well in ballet in general. So those are the 3 things that I'm going to go over today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to think about, of course, is our flexibility. And obviously you want to be working your flexibility in all different directions, but for today we're just going to concentrate on our flexibility to the side, or à la seconde. So something that's going to really help you is to be able to do your middle splits. It's not 100% necessary to be able to get your leg up, but it will help you definitely be able to get your leg higher. So I'm going to link my how to get your middle splits video in the description if you want to go and check that out. But today what we're going to do is we're going to either take your ankle and hold out to second position, or you can also do your heel, or you can do your toe. Okay, now what we're looking for here in the stretch is obviously that we're turned out in our supporting leg and also turned out in our working leg, which is actually why I really like this stretch holding on to the heel, because if you can see, what I'm doing is I am pulling my heel to the front. I'm not letting my heel go this way to the side. I'm keeping my heel right round to the front and my toes to the back, and I am keeping as much as possible this hip down. I'm not letting it go back or up. I'm keeping it right down, and that is the position of a développé or a grand battement. It's not this. So if you're doing this and you think like, oh wow, look how super flexible I am this way, it's actually not stretching the right muscles. You need to feel the stretch along here, not necessarily along here, okay? So that's why it's really important to stretch like this as well. And of course, if you want a bit of a stronger stretch, a more challenging stretch, you can take your toes, and it's the same thing again. I don't want to be letting this happen. I want to be keeping that hip down and pulling my leg towards my torso. Again, I'm not dropping my torso to get my leg higher. My torso needs to be in its line, so if I let go, I'm on balance. Obviously you need to do your other leg as well, don't just do one leg. We're going to lower that hip and pull up through this side of the torso. Again, keeping that heel to the front. Okay, so now moving on to strength, and the best way to work on your strength is to push yourself to the maximum and put your maximum effort into every single ballet class, every single développé and every single grand battement that you do, because that's the way that you're going to get stronger. So it's not really good in a class if you're like, okay, here's my développé, I'm quite comfortable there, I need to really push myself more. So that's going to be a way that you can get stronger, is by really challenging yourself in class, trying to get it a little bit higher and trying to sustain it for longer as well, because the longer you can hold it, the easier it's going to get, and the stronger you're going to get, and therefore you can go higher and higher and higher at the same time as increasing your flexibility. Another good exercise which I like to do, which helps with strength and helps feel that you're using the right muscles. So make sure that you're in first position or fifth position, lift up this leg and hook your arm underneath. And again, I don't want it to be here because that's not where I want my développé to be. I want it to be to the side. So without lifting this hip, again, I'm going to keep myself as much in line as possible. Again, if I let go of the bar, I should be able to stay there. And then we're just going to développé that leg, just the end part of a développé like that. And you should be able to feel your muscles working. So you can do a few of them on this side, 10, 20, and again the same thing on the other side. Remember, we don't want this happening. We want to be in line, turned out in both legs, strong torso, I can balance, and now let me just show you that from the side, just to make sure that you understand what the alignment should be. So if I'm in first position, I'm taking this here. I don't want this, and I also don't want this. Okay, everything, just as with every exercise in ballet, should be in a line. I'm on my centre, and from there I extend as far out to the side as I can. Not everyone will be able to get it right to the side, so then you can go here, but we don't want it too much to the diagonal because it still has to be à la seconde. Other things that you can do, which I know that other dancers do, I don't personally have any ankle weights, but if you wanted to train bar with ankle weights on, then that's also a great idea for improving your strength. So now let's just talk about the technique. So let's go from fifth position, and of course we're going to draw up, supporting knee is strong, I'm lifted out of my hip, torso is on its centre, and when I get to here, I'm going to lift the knee first. It's not this and this at the same time. What you want to do, and what's going to help you and what looks more beautiful as well, is to lift and then you continue the développé to wherever your knee gets to. Don't lift your knee too high and then you actually don't have the flexibility to continue. So take it to the place where you are going to be able to then extend. But don't just get to your défilé or passé position and think, right, from there I'm just extending out. No, try and get this knee up, again, without doing any of this. It just has to be the knee, and then we can extend. And of course, ideally what we want is for that heel to be forward. I don't know if you guys have access to mirrors in your ballet classes. Obviously it's always great if there are mirrors in the class, but it will depend where your bar's on. But I do highly recommend, if you can, being at a bar where you're looking at your profile. So not just straight on if the mirror's there and I'm dancing like this, but actually if I'm sideways to the mirror and I've got the bar here, not where my bar is moving, but if I've got the bar here, because you're going to be able to see much better mistakes like this, mistakes like this. So from the side, if you didn't know, the leg needs to go behind your arm, so don't bring it in front. We want to keep the line of the torso, nothing should alter as we bring that leg up. Another tip which I found really helpful, which I actually got from one of KATHRYN Morgan's videos, I'll try and find what her video was and I will link it as well in the description of this video so you can go and watch it if you want to, is to, when you're doing the développé, not actually be only thinking about the working leg, but actually if you're pulling out of your supporting hip and your supporting leg is really, really strong, it's going to kind of free up the movement of your working leg. So instead of thinking like, oh, lift the leg, if I'm thinking about my supporting leg and I'm thinking pull up with my supporting leg, it's actually going to help me to be able to lift this leg higher. So the last thing, let's think a little bit about our grand battement to the side. Something which is, first of all, technically correct, but it's also going to help you if you start training it properly from the beginning, is to use the floor, because that movement you're already elongating. Because if I'm already starting to lift off the floor from here, I'm not elongating this leg. This leg should be on the floor for as long as possible, and it's going to free up all of that movement and all of my hip joint. I don't want it to be like this. You really need to push through the floor and think of your toes drawing like a huge curve, a huge kind of semicircle, and that's going to help both of your développés and your grand battement to actually think that that line extends to your toes as well, because sometimes I see people who are working here and their toes a bit like that. That's actually harder. You're going to use more of these muscles where if you're not stretching your toes, you really need to finish the line, and if that is held, it's going to make everything else so much easier as well. And it's the same for the grand battement. So obviously we want that leg as strong and as straight and as pointed as possible. We want supporting leg, the standing leg, the same as for the développé, really strong, lifted out of the hip, knee fully engaged, and both legs of course turned out. And the last thing, just to remind you, is that that leg needs to go behind your arm. It will also make you realise if you have your arm too far behind you, which I sometimes end up going a bit this way, and then my leg's not going to be able to get past there. So that, and it's incorrect to have my arm that far back. So that actually really does help for everything, for your arm position and for your correct technique with your legs in the grand battement. I'll show you from the side as well. Now again, I'm trying my best to control my hips. When you start to get past 90 degrees, you're probably not going to be able to not move your hips at all. There has to be just a very, very slight movement. But obviously what we don't want is this. We don't want any of this, because this is not going to help us with strength. It's not correct. It's going to throw us off balance. As soon as we get into the centre, if we're trying to do grand battements like that, like game over. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I really hope you found it helpful. Remember to check the description box for those stretching videos I was talking about. I will also link the développé and grand battement bar video, so you guys can go over the correct technique for all of that as well. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!